Hey, what's going on, Diecast enthusiasts? It's going to be something of a little bit of a different video, a little different format. Haven't used the turnstile in a while. So we're going to look at some Tomica Limited Vintage cars, starting with this Nissan Prairie. So I'm a collector of like premium detailed stuff, so I favor Greenlight and Auto World and certain Johnny Lightning. But the problem with those cars is you really don't have a lot of options for imports. And so what I have found is that for classic import cars, mostly Japanese but some European, Tomica Limited Vintage is a great brand to fill that void. And then for the more modern stuff, Kyosho is a really good brand to fill the void. Those two brands will give you at least a Greenlight or Auto World level of detail, probably even a higher level of detail, as well as a higher level of quality. I actually dropped this car on my tile floor and it survived it somehow. I have no idea how. When I dropped it, I just looked up, closed my eyes. I knew the car was busted. I knew it was done. I knew it was ruined. And it landed on the tile and slid underneath the couch. And then after about 20 seconds, I got down, picked it up, and looked it over, and it was perfect. So the quality is really good, because had I done that to an M2 or even a Greenlight, it probably would have broken the car. And in most cases, these would probably break as well. I think I really just got lucky. But anyways, really cool car. It's I don't know the year on these, but most of these were not available in the U.S. market. This one was, but it was not known as the Nissan Prairie. It was a Nissan Stanza wagon. And it is a really cool little car. I do like it. I like oddball stuff like this that is really unique. So this is definitely a unique little casting. There are some other castings of this. I think actually even Matchbox did a Nissan Prairie at one point. Another Nissan, one of the two Tomica Limited Vintage 4x4s that I have. This is a Nissan Safari, which is a larger, I would say almost a full-size SUV, probably close to the size of a Suburban. Probably not quite that big, but maybe a Tahoe, somewhere in there. It's definitely bigger than what the S10 Blazer would have been. It's a longer wheelbase, but the detail in these cars is as good as it gets in 1:64 scale. And the downside to that is you really do have to fork out the cash for the Tomica Limited Vintage. I think a lot of that is just because of what goes into producing them, but also the fact that they're not commercially available here in the States, so everything is imported. The Toy Pimp is a good source for TLV. Otherwise, your best bet is to just go to eBay and buy it from an overseas seller, because there really aren't any domestic sellers of Tomica Limited Vintage. You might be able to find a few, but I would say on average probably $25 a car. Some of them are going to be more than that, and you might find some that are less than that, but you're really not going to find them a whole lot less than 20 to 25 shipped. But I like that one. I like all 4x4s. The only other 4x4 Tomica Limited Vintage I have is this one here. And this is the Toyota Land Cruiser. On this little casting here, you will see some little holes. All of these cars come with accessories like side view mirrors, spoilers, in this case radio antennas. It is your job to attach them to the car. I choose not to do that just because there's only like certain types of glues that you can use. Like one of them is just like a regular Elmer's glue, something that's not going to damage the paint. But then you don't always get the best hold. So I just choose to leave them as they come. I have all the accessories, but I choose not to put them on. Now, if they come on the car, because some of them do come already with side view mirrors and spoilers and stuff like that. So if they come on the car, then obviously I just leave it. But you can just see the detail on these. They're basically just scaled down miniatures. Extremely accurate. They're extremely proportionate. This is the only brand outside of Auto World that makes the claim to be true 1:64 scale. And I remember when I first saw these in person, some of the castings, I couldn't believe it. I said, there's no way these are 1:64. They're just way too small. But they are, in fact, 1:64. So, continuing on with the Nissan theme. Well, let's do this. This is a pre-Nissan. This is an old Prince. Prince was known for the Skyline. They are the originator of the Skyline. It only became a Nissan after the acquisition of Prince. And the Prince Skylines are pretty well known, but personally, I like the styling on this a lot better than on the Skyline. The styling on this car it's just awesome. Great lines. It's got a great stance. Really nice trim detail. Just a really cool little car. And this is the Prince Gloria, I think, Super 6. So on all these cars, you're going to get lensed headlights, lensed taillights, metal body, metal base, rubber tires with tread. Most of these have suspension. Another thing that Tomica does in the designing of these castings is they will bring a 1:1 scale car into the studio during the design so that they have an actual reference. They're not just referencing photos, two-dimensional photos. They're referencing the three-dimensional car in full scale. And that really allows them to capture a lot more of the detail, but also where I think it helps them most, just based off of the result of the castings, is in the proportions. Tomica Limited Vintage cars, I've never seen one that doesn't look proportioned correctly. So that is the Prince Gloria, which later became the Nissan Gloria. Really cool little car. I really dig it. There's a racing 2-pack of these that's like $45 shipped, and I should have got it. Hopefully it'll still be there next time around. So I guess we'll stay on the Nissan theme. This one here is just a Nissan Fairlady 2x2. I don't think this is Tomica's best Z casting. I think it's the 240 that they did that I like the most. This is really, really nice, though. It's a really nice execution. But it was the body style before this is the one that really looks good. But this one really does look good, though. You have to admit. Great detail, great stance. All of these also feature OEM prototypical wheels. Some of them have better detail than others, but it is there on all of them. And the interior detail on these is pretty incredible as well. I don't know if you can see it on video as the cars spin, but the interior, all of these cars are factory colors, factory interior colors, and just very, 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 very well done. So that's your Nissan Fairlady Z. All of these cars are excellent rollers. You don't ever have to worry about that. With Tomica Limited Vintage, I don't even think they'll ship it if it doesn't roll. So the last 3 or 4 Nissans, I'll show this one before I get into the Skylines. I like this one a lot. This is the newest addition to my collection, the Datsun 510 Bluebird. And this is a car that you will not find for $25. If you find this for $25, you should jump all over that. And let me know so I can buy a couple of them. And I think this car is only going to increase in value. A lot of the older Tomica Limited Vintage cars go for a couple $100 just because I don't know what it is. I guess it's just supply and demand. But once they hit 2 to 3 years old, there just aren't any on the market. So most of their old stuff from, I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago, you can't even find. It's not even on eBay. So they do make some awesome diecast though. And then the last 3 Nissans are going to be Skylines, which, you know, when you think Skyline, you think 2-door Hakoska or R32 or something like that, and that's not what they do with Tomica Limited Vintage. They focus on stock, and all of them are 4-door, with the exception of the GTR, which really isn't a Skyline, it's a GTR. But this is just an old Hakoska 4-door stock Nissan Skyline. And showing this on the blue felt probably isn't the best presentation for contrast, but I love the color. They put this car out in a lot of colors. I know I sent a really nice silver one with a black vinyl top up to Champion DJK. That's probably my second favorite. This would be my first, but it's been out in a handful of colors, and the interior detail on this car is as nice as the rest. You got the little wood steering wheel, all of the lens, headlights and taillights, all of the trim, really nice suspension, really nice stance. I mean, they really do just look like miniatures. I mean, it looks like the actual car, just smaller. And you really can't say that about a lot of cars in this scale. As close as these companies get to replicating the model, it's very rare that they actually get it spot on. But these cars are definitely spot on. Try to get you a better look here at the wheels on this one. I don't think that's really showing up. Just an awesome little car. This is basically the same car as the Matchbox, except this is the 4-door. Very, very cool car. Alright, so that's the Hako. The next one, probably my favorite body style of all of the TLV Skylines. And there are a couple of toolings that I don't have. But for some reason, I just really like this one. I don't know what it is, because it is kind of an ugly car, and I think maybe that's why I'm drawn to it. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but this wouldn't be my first choice of color, but the casting itself I really like. And this is the generation after after the Hakoska. So you have the Ken Mary, which I think was the first Skyline after they acquired Prince or merged with Prince. And then from the Ken Mary you went to the Hako, and then from the Hako you go into the Japan. And then after this one is when they started getting more modern. But I think this body style was circa late 1970s, I think, 78. I'm not the foremost authority on Nissan Skylines or on cars in general. I honestly don't know much about cars, but I do have a pretty good idea about the diecast. And this thing is just killer. Awesome little car. These cars, if you have like a carny case or some kind of display rack and you collect Auto World, these cars look so good on display next to Auto World cars. This one here is going to be a hot car. I have a feeling this is one of those that will continue to increase in value. It's another four-door Nissan Skyline. This is the R33. They also have an R34 four-door, which looks great too, but I like the R33 better just because I just think it looks better. I think the styling is better. It's slightly more rounded, whereas the R34 has sharper edges on it. I just think this is a great balance. It's not too round. It's not too boxy. Great flow to the lines of the car. And this came out with the Tokyo Police livery, and then the silver, and then I think they've announced another release of this, so it'll be, I think, 2 more colors that it'll be coming out in. But it looks amazing in silver. It is a beautiful car, there's no doubt. These wheels are incredibly detailed. You can see the rotors and calipers behind the wheel. This is one of the few models that has the side view mirrors attached. Awesome car. This one is still really affordable. I think you can get this one under $30 shipped, which I think is a great price for that car because it's only going to go up. So that narrows us down to the last 3. Here's another one that's a relatively new tooling. Just came out last year, and it's been a pretty big hit. This is the Honda Prelude. The Konami Prelude stacks up really nice with the TLV, but at the end of the day, the TLV is definitely a nicer tooling. Um, and I don't think it's so much the tooling itself, or even the detail, because they both have about the same amount of detail. Where I think TLV has the advantage is with the execution of the detail. Everything lines up so much tighter. Um, it's just a more refined detail. But I did notice on the Konami, as you sit these two cars next to each other, the Konami with the TLV, the Konami seems to be just a hair wider. This is an awesome car, though. I really dig it. And this one's so the Toy Pimp as kind of like, I guess you would say, a secondary distributor for Tomica Limited Vintage. He tries to focus on cars like this that were commercially available here in the US, because that's mostly what people here in the US want. They want to collect stuff that they had. And so this was a really popular car for him. Any of the cars that were available here. Although there aren't a lot of them. There are some. And then the last two cars are right now probably my favorite type of cars to collect, Toyotas. But not just any Toyota, premium detailed Toyotas. Because there aren't a lot of them out there. And I only have 3 in my Tomica Limited Vintage collection. I already showed you guys the Land Cruiser. Here is the Toyota 1600 GT Corona. I apologize. This is not a 1600. This is a 1900 Mark II. Toyo Pet Corona. But I love this car. I love it. It almost has like a cross between a European look and a Japanese look. You know, a little bit of Alfa Romeo in the back end. I don't know. It's a great design. The wheels and tires look great. And the detail on this car it's tough to beat. It's a classy looking little car. Though I would say it's not as classy as the next one. This is I would say a smaller, maybe not a mid-sized car, but I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it a subcompact. It's probably about the size of one of the Skylines. Very, very cool car, though. I love it. So there's that. And then the last one. This thing is a beast. This is the Toyota Century. It is about the size of the Nissan President limo that TLV does, which is another great casting. I prefer this one over the I prefer the Toyota Century to the Nissan President. I just think it's a classier looking car. I display this in the Carney case next to my Kyosho Bentley. Which Bentley is it? Arnage, I think. And they just look so sick next to each other. This is a beast of a car. It's about the size of like an Auto World Impala. So it's as far as TLV goes, this is a very large casting. In fact, let's see if I can put it in perspective. Oh, no you don't. The Nissan Safari is a large casting. And this thing is bigger than the Safari, so it's definitely a large four-door. But I just love this car. I love all of these. I mean, they're fun to collect. They're just expensive. I mean, it's a different type of collecting. You're not hunting at Walmart and buying 10 or 15 of them. You know, you got to kind of plan for it, find one that you like, and then make the purchase. What I've been doing lately, since I've been on more of a budget, is I'll find 2 or 3 that I like, and then when I'm ready, I will make the purchase. And there's a couple reasons I do that. The first is I don't want to wait 3 weeks for it to ship from Japan for each one. So if I can get 2 or 3 per shipment, you know, that's just my problem with not having patience. But the other reason I do it is because the main supplier that I purchase from on eBay, if you spend $50 at his store, he'll ship everything for free. So, as an example, with this little car, I knew that this was the car that I wanted to purchase. I knew I was going to purchase it. So when I got paid, I went in to make the purchase. This car was $47 with the shipping. Actually, no, it was $47 plus shipping. And shipping was like $8. So it would have cost $55. And I could have just added another $20 car, and it really would have only been a net difference of $12. And so I just browsed his store and found a couple other cars that I wanted, and that is where I found the Toyota Corona and the Prince Gloria. So those 2 cars came across the pond with the 510. So that was a fun box to get. I think they're bringing out the 2-door, the 510 2-door, so I'm going to have to grab that tooling. Because they're very limited when they put a model out. It's not out for too long, and then it's like they retire the model. They don't like vault the tooling or anything like that, which I think, by the way, would be an awesome thing to do. But I know with, you know, licensing expenditures and stuff like that, vaulting a tooling is probably not a viable option. That would really be interesting to see what that type of thing would do, though, to the value of diecast with any brand. I mean, think about if Auto World vaulted the Coupe de Ville tooling. Imagine what that would do to the price of those cars. So I like the idea. I mean, Funko does it with vinyl figures. Disney does it with their classics. They vault them, but the cool thing about Disney is that they re-release them every like 10 or 20 years or whatever. But that would be a really cool model to get behind. The problem is that they're paying money for these licensing, or for this licensing, and you know, they have to get that return on that investment. And if they vault the tooling, then obviously they're not going to get that return. And if they were to vault the tooling for, say, 10 years, by the time it comes out of the vault, the licensing is probably expired at that point. So they have to re-up it and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. But this is a great brand. I recommend this brand to any of you diecast collectors, especially those of you that collect Greenlight and Auto World, but you're looking for more of an import. Because the problem with Greenlight and Auto World is that it's all domestic. So if you like that type of detail, but you are more interested in acquiring some import stuff, then Tomica Limited Vintage is a great brand, as well as Kyosho, and I'll probably do a Kyosho video here in a couple days. Before I wrap the video up, I just wanted to show everybody this. I don't know how well this is going to show up. It's a picture of a picture. This is on ZA3collectibles.com. Tokyo Torque Series 2. The art renderings have been released, and we are getting a Brie 510 two-door. This car is going to be insanely popular. So just a heads up, ZA3collectibles.com. The art renderings for Tokyo Torque 2 are available to view. There's also a really nice two-door 510 that is blue with gold wheels. It looks actually a lot like the 1:24 scale M2. And I know that there may not be a lot of confidence right now in Greenlight with the announcement of this tooling because of how bad the 240Z came out. But trust me when I tell you guys, this drawing right here is on point. I remember when the 240 drawing came out, and it looked very questionable to me. It never looked right. This thing right here looks spot on. I mean, it really, really looks good. The only thing I might change from the drawing is just a little bit larger wheel and tuck it up just a little bit more up in the wheel well. But check out the proportions on that and the lines on that. And this is the art rendering, so this is what the tooling is going to be based off of. So I think it's going to look great. I'm not even a little bit worried about it. It's going to be an awesome tooling. It's going to hit, the Black Bandit hits in May. The Tokyo Torque Series 2 is supposed to hit in June, but because of what it is, and because of the history with Greenlight and Nissan and Brock licensing, I would not be surprised if that gets pushed back to August or even September. But hopefully they've already got the licensing secured, and hopefully it's just a matter of running the production, packaging them up, and sending them out. If that's the case, we should see those in June. So anyways, thank you everybody. Have a good night. I will holler at the next video.